1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we have everybody now, right? Okay, all right. I'm going to call this a town council meeting, February 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. to order. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Ooh. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and
to the republic
for
which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and justice
for all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. Okay, so we have a request for a proclamation tonight. Proclamation requesting recognizing February as Black History Month.
Yep. Hi, I'm Mike Rosen, town manager. I can try to kick us off here. So we've actually had 2 emails that were sent in through the website about recognizing February as Black History Month. As per our proclamation process that we established back in June of 2020, a new proclamation that doesn't fall into one of the standard categories needs to first be heard and vetted by the town council. So believe it or not, this is not one of our standard ones. So what we're thinking about, obviously council needs to consider whether they would like staff, myself, my office, to put together wording for this proclamation. As a basis for that, I do have the 2 that had come in sort of like as a starter template. 2 different people had written in about Black History Month, so I can try to cobble something together. But just wanted first, before I do that, to get the blessing of town council. So feel free to let me know if you'd like me to do that. Thank you.
So I'm thinking we probably need to kind of firm this. We started out with good intentions of having this just being like a request policy, and I think we might need to kind of put some actual wording around it, because now we have the proclamation, but we have to vote on it to say that we're moving forward. But can we vote under 4, or do we have to create a new line item for new business to approve? Or
I mean, generally we do this in 2 meetings because there's no
Right.
wording at the moment. So unless you wanted to spend the time to craft language on the fly, but I think traditionally what we do is we approve the request and then I bring back the presentation. And that's just traditionally as of June of 2020.
As of June, right.
We're living this, there's no, by the way, there's no policy, it's a process. So
Correct.
Might
It's
be
just a
something
process.
correct. Yeah.
So in this case, I think that the question then becomes, how do we can go ahead and approve this, but I also think we need to really do a PSA, because while I think this is a great thing, by the time we actually get the language and approve it, it's going to be March. So, and on the policy online, it says that we should have 30 days warning for build 30 days into your request period before the date of what you want proclaimed, because it is a 2 meeting thing. So in this case, again, we can vote on it, decide to move it forward, but it's not going to even be done until March. So I think we have to come back and kind of firm this up a little bit and do some PSA out there if people want to request something for a certain month, to make sure they request it 30 days ahead of time. But Steve?
Yeah, I wasn't sure you were going to ask me whether or not we had to vote on it or not, or if it just had to be a straw poll. But either way, I was going to say I'd be in favor of moving forward and giving Town Manager Rosen the discretion to utilize the 2 proposed sets of language and perhaps blend them together for a final draft for approval in March.
Yep. So I guess we could probably do just a straw man in this case.
A straw poll. Yeah, I mean, generally we do a formal vote, but
well, that's the thing, right? I guess we can do a formal vote too, but we're voting during proclamation. If we can vote during proclamation, procedurally, I think that's okay.
So I'm going to quote from the June 9th minutes, which I just in case have here. So the submission would be submitted to the town council at the next available meeting, and if approved, would be created, signed, and presented via a PDF or a formal in-person presentation.
Right.
So, and by the way, just for memory's sake, the 4 the 4 possible standards we have are residents' 100th birthdays, recognition of retiring town employees, recognition of civic organizations, and then Fair Housing Month, which is in April. So those are the 4 that don't need to go through the council for the pre-approval.
Okay. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I along with Councilman Jones, I fully support this. In fact, it was something that I, after our last meeting, that I had put in a request to Mr. Rosen for the proclamation. Again, behind the eight ball, but I figured that we needed to at least make some type of recognition that it would fall within the parameters of what we did discuss, where I believe that during our discussions as well, that we did state that if there had been previous presidential proclamations, that the town could recognize that as a part of its own proclamations, that this was a proclamation for African American History Month that was declared back with President Ford. So I think it's something that we can go forward with. I fully support it, and I would look forward to having Mr. Rosen and his staff sort of take a look at the two drafts or the two requests to be submitted, and sort of put something out to the council in advance so that we could try and have something ready to go to discuss at the next meeting. But I fully support this and ask the rest of the council to support it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, well, why don't we just do does anybody else have anything they would like to discuss regarding the proclamation request? Holy moly. Steve, oh, nope, Steve, up, down, Brenda.
Yes, I would just like to maybe suggest that if people are requesting proclamations in the future, that we end up seeing the requests in the minutes. So what's going to happen is you're going to bring something to us next meeting. We're going to look at it and approve it, and then it's not going to be in the formal final stages of being put into a proclamation until the meeting after. You know, we won't actually be doing the presentation next meeting. We'll be talking about the language and then making changes. And then, you know, especially if we were in person, you know, you can't print it at the meeting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was the point of the 30 days, was like the request comes in, we
Right,
said
but even,
no,
even
and then
30
the
days
town
is
manager-
just even 30 days
manager's
is
office
just
would
meetings.
draft it, and then we would look at it.
Is
Are
the
you done?
request, well, I'm just quick question on that. So if, in the first meeting, if we receive language, are you asking that a draft be included as of the, because the
Yeah.
problem, well, because if council needs to approve whether, for, this is just by the process.
Right.
So if there's, you know, what part of this is just sort of like the, making sure that inappropriate ones don't get put on an agenda, you know, like with wording and stuff like
Well,
that.
Well, obviously, but you're asking us to do something for Black History Month, and I don't know what the two drafts look like. So I don't know if they're appropriate for Black History Month. You know, we haven't seen them to see what they include. So I would assume you wouldn't share anything that obviously was inappropriate. But if someone was putting their best efforts forward, sharing it ahead of time so that we have something to look at and say, yeah, we're on the right direction here. So, you know, here's my input on this, because otherwise it will take 3 meetings, and we only have 2 meetings in a 30-day period. We do not have 3. You know, currently the idea came up. In 2 weeks, I'll submit something to you, but we can't actually do the proclamation that evening because, you know, we haven't approved it, and we won't be able to print it, and we won't be able to be presenting it. We have to do that the following meeting. So that would be 3 meetings. I'm just trying to streamline the process.
Which I think kind of just reaffirms the point that we need some kind of formalized process here rather than just a request, Mike. Lou? Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to let John go because he has not gone yet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is similar to what Councilwoman Falusi was just talking about. Is Mr. Rosen bound by the 2 communications he's received, or can he go outside of that? Because this is a national event. It obviously pertains to our town, and there are people in our town that would like to have this proclamation move forward. So my question is, can he reach outside of the 2 communications he's received, the 2 texts that he's received? And how does that process work? Is he going to be on his own for that, or is he going to get any guidance from us?
Process, Mike, we need a process.
So again, I mean, that's a good question, but I think it comes back to a policy versus the process. When we put together there was the proclamation policy that we looked at over the summer. We ended up deciding not to go the full boat with doing a policy, but kind of just doing a process instead. But I think this is showing the gaps in that thinking, that there's no, it's kind of on the fly at the moment. So since it's not a policy, I mean, council's free to do what it wants. We're not bound by anything. You all can decide what you'd like to do with proclamations. Nothing, proclamations aren't mandated. They're not, there's nothing pressing us to do this. So if you want to acknowledge proclamations, it's your way, however you'd like to do it. Right now, as it stands, and just, for my office's sake too, because we've gotten 5 or 6 proclamations in the last few weeks and they're starting to build up on us. So we get proclamation requests that come in through the website, which is how the process was instituted. We bring to council for your agreement whether or not this is an appropriate request for a proclamation. We don't take the time to draft the language before the meeting, because if you give it the thumbs down, then why did we spend time on doing that? That's part of it. So that's why we've been doing it this way. And we bring it back the second meeting. We have the draft language. It can be voted on that night. And an example of where that worked well was when we had the presentation for the gentleman who made that save in the car. We did on the second, within a month, we were able to do the first meeting to approve and the second meeting to present. So it can work.
Yeah, and we don't always get, well, first of all, people don't typically submit language all the time. Sometimes it's just a request to recognize something. So, you've had those, and we've had people who have submitted language, but at the end of the day, the town council approves it and can change the language in that. So I don't know. I think there's, I was going somewhere with that. I just don't remember where it was. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree with this. I think it's something where this is one that sort of came up in the middle of the month, and it's no matter what, that we were never going to be able to meet it within the February timeframe. I think it's just more of saying, look, that this is something that that we need to do. But that I think that the process that we have, saying that it's 30 months, that at least it's 30 days out, will give us at least an opportunity, if it's something we want to extend and say even 45 days out to be considered, to address the issues that both Ms. Faluzzi and Mr. Reagan have brought up, then that's something that we can do, or we can address it as far as adopting a full policy. But I think it's something at this point, given the fact that what's being requested is basically a recognition of a month in relation to a formal presidential proclamation, which is what we limited that to previously, where it was something that was a prior presidential proclamation, and we are recognizing that proclamation and adopting it as our own within the town. I think that there's more than enough language out there where if we go forward with this and we approve it, that Mr. Rosen and his staff could draw from these prior presidential proclamations to draft an appropriate one, rather than relying upon the language. Sometimes the language may be presented to at least guide them along, but I think it's something that for at least for a recognition month such as this, without a specific, honorary event such as the awarding that we had as Mr. Rosen said, the car save, as well as other things that are going on, where we may have a little bit more time to sort of formulate something, work with the family and work with the people to draft an appropriate proclamation request. I think that's something that that we can work on. But if somebody is requesting a recognition for a month, such as African American Month, such as what we did last year for LGBTQ month, or for day, something like that, there's already proclamations out there that can be modeled. So I think that is something that we're by next month, that Mr. Rose and I have full faith in him and his staff will be able to draft something appropriate based upon those prior proclamations and bring it forward to the town council that we can act upon and then issue. And if there's a formal presentation, we could have that formal presentation at a later point, but at least have it adopted at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'm very excited to hear that more people are taking advantage of this proclamation to be able to celebrate and recognize the accomplishments and the different people in our community. I think that's an awesome thing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what else came up. Second, since we did say that we are giving a nod of approval to any event that was already recognized by, presidential decree, since Black History Month is already recognized as, something going forward, it seems to me that this step should have been skipped.
That's for the
you know,
signage policy, though. That's
The
for the
signage?
the
That's
signage.
not for proclamations also?
Well, you can add it. I mean, if that's one of the things, we can just add that. Again, it's a process, so we can do whatever you want.
Okay, sorry, I was getting things together, but, and then I believe that once we get this, our proclamation for recognizing Black History Month together, this is something that we can use again next year and just automatically put it up for review in January and do it the first meeting in February. And I would suggest we take a look ahead in the calendar for the rest of the year and find out which other ones as counselors we want to recognize, and get a move on those proclamations.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick vote of the counselors for if you are in favor of doing a proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month. All those in favor, Brenda?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I thought Steve Jones had his hand up before you did the call.
I put my hand down. I wasn't sure if you were doing a straw poll or just a motion. I was gonna make the motion if we needed to, but if we're just doing a straw poll vote.
Yep, just doing a straw poll here because there's no official. So Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. So Mike, if you want to take the proclamation that you have and come up with some draft language for us, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, that gets us to number 5, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. If you are on a device, if you can raise your hand. And when I call on you, you need to state your name and address for the record. If you are on a phone, it is *9. Same applies for the name and address. Okay, I am not seeing anybody. That gets us to public hearing items. Consideration of approval of the lease renewal for 52 Tolland Green Jail Museum between the town of Tolland and the Tolland Historical Society for period April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031. So it's 10 years.
Okay, so I can start. Hi, Mike Rosen, Town Manager. So if you remember at our last meeting, we had 3 new business items looking for lease renewals for 3 town, I guess, well-used town assets. And 2 that are represented by the Tolland Historical Society, 1 that's the Arts of Tolland Incorporated. We're fortunate that Kathy Bach is with us tonight she's the president of Tolland Historical Society. Hi, Kathy. And we asked her to join as well as Mike Wyman for the Arts Center and to talk if there's any specific questions about these leases. But the specific, as the agenda item stipulates, these are a 10-year lease renewal. They're for $1 a year lease that the organization gives to the town to lease these properties. And, we're hoping, since it's just once every 10 years, kind of have to refresh your memory how this works, but we do have to do a public hearing on this because it's considered real property asset of the town. So the public has the opportunity to weigh in on, whether or not they'd like to see this asset used this way for another 10 years. So that's why we're doing the public hearings tonight. All 3 of them are going to be very similar. So let's leave it like that.
Okay, does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss before we open the public hearing? I got a feeling this is going to go quick. Steve?
All right, Steve Jones will make a motion to open the public hearing.
Brenda Felucci, I will second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. The public hearing is open. Public, if you would like to speak on item number 6.1, which is a consideration of a lease renewal for the 52 Tolland Green Jail Museum, please raise your hand on your device. When I call on you, to name and address. If you're on a phone, it's *9. All right, I'm not seeing anybody.
Seeing none, Steve Jones, I'd entertain a motion, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that passes unanimously. The meeting is now closed. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss or any questions that they would like to ask?
So, Tammy, if you mind, if I may.
Go right ahead. You
You
didn't
know,
raise your hand, but that's
Oh,
okay. You go ahead.
You know, we're charging $1 a year. I mean, I think we could definitely get what, $2 a year, double our profit. I mean, if that's okay with that. I'm just kidding.
I don't know, that's a big increase, right, Kathy?
I think
100% increase.
I'd like to comment, if I may, because I don't think that we ever really come before the council and talk to you a little bit about the property itself. And I will speak to both properties to save time. And that is that I think that the relationship between the town and the Historical Society, in the case of both museums, has been a real collegial relationship. The town has been wonderful in terms of maintaining the properties. On the outside, we have tried to do our very best to be equally collegial in terms of maintaining the inside. We've done a lot of restoration, renovation on the property on the inside. We have invested heavily in both museums in terms of maintaining the property, investing money in terms of infrastructure on the inside. And where we can go after grants and try to help with outside in terms of even financial support, we have done that as well. So I'm hoping that we have been really good tenants in both cases and have been worthy of your support over the years. So even though we only pay $1 a year and it sounds minimal, it's tough to find a tenant who will run a jail or lease a space or a barn. But I think that we have been, as far as societies are concerned, really, really good tenants. We've also been a good resource in terms of using town resources and finding other organizations in town that will invest in the property, if not in financially, community support and awareness. So we're pretty excited about that in terms of awareness in the community, in your buildings. So I think it's been a really fun. I've been involved for about 30 years, so I think it's, for my 3 decades anyway, it's been a lot of fun. And a good relationship. And I hope that when I move on, that it'll be a good turnover in the future. So I'm
You're
thrilled.
never going anywhere, Kathy.
I know.
I'd like to just thank you guys. You guys do a great job of not only maintaining the the buildings in that, but also keeping Tolland's historical references vital and alive. So my kids all loved those field trips all the time. So
Wait to be open again.
I know, don't we all? I hear you. But I think you guys do an amazing job of of keeping Tolland's history also. So and you're great stewards of the property. So I think you guys are nothing but an add, personally.
We're excited about, we've just recently got a very significant grant for a private building we own, which is the courthouse across the street at 53 Tolland Green, which will be, we just got a bid, closed the bidding process. Now we're going to SHPO so that we can go to the next phase and get the bid awarded. So you should see some construction this summer on that building. Once I get that off my desk, I'm hoping to work with the town on getting some grant money so that we can work on the jail, because the porches need some work there. So
is that grant, Kathy, for the bell tower?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And
okay, I know
you've seen fundraising going on, and we're still doing that, but we did get the grant from the state.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
It's I know this is public. It's $100,000 grant. So we need to keep raising for the match, but $100,000 towards that project is just wonderful. We are so excited.
Do we have to match? Do we have to have a matching part of that grant?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to still keep trying to push the fundraising opportunity.
So that thermometer, keep an eye on that thermometer.
Steve.
Yeah, no, I was just going to thank Kathy for coming tonight and being here to speak, and also appreciative of throughout the pandemic, the Guest the Artifacts
Oh,
contest was certainly very, very appreciative by people on social media to stay
Amazing.
connected to the
Thanks, Steve.
services that are within those buildings. And yeah, very excited to get back in them once we can safely do so.
Thanks for your support too, Steve.
I was definitely stumped on a few of them. Couple I got, but a few of them I was like, I ain't got a clue.
Mary Pat Susi, who is our fundraiser and is involved with the Military Museum, is on screen as well tonight. Mary Pat, give away so they can see.
Yes. Brenda?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo all the comments here. You know, the museums are a integral part of our Tolland Green. They're a very enjoyable asset to our town. Going there and learning, each time I go in, I learn something new, especially about all the different cottage industries that have been around town, all the different tools that are being used. I did love the artifact. We're trying to ramp up some information, you know, sharing on the Tolland tourism page, which should help out a lot. And we do have the opportunity through Sustainable CT to do a matching grant. They do grants up to 15,000 matching, and that might be a good one for the porch, at least to get. Yeah, so we can talk about that. And there's a lot less paperwork than is involved in any other grant writing you will ever have to do.
Good. That's good to know.
So it's like one page. Seriously, it is very, very easy. And they try to be very, very flexible. So I'm so excited to see this move forward and get another 10 years of work out of you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Nettie? No, all right, then Steve, you want to go to that resolution for 6-1?
Sure thing. Steve Jones here. I make a motion that be it resolved by the Tolland Town Council that it hereby approves a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the lease renewal for 52 Tolland Green between the town of Tolland and the Tolland Historical Society for April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031, approved by the Tolland Town Council on February 23rd, 2021.
Lulu, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that passes unanimously. That gets us to 6.2, consideration and approval of a lease renewal for 749 Tolland Stage Road, Military Museum, between the town of Tolland and the Tolland Historical Society for a period of April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031. Mike?
Yes, this is another lease that runs concurrent to the previous one we just did. Much if not all is the same except for the address. So this is again a lease between the town and the Historical Society, and it's again in the amount of $1 a year. So I don't know if there's any particular questions specific to this property, but this is the same stipulations as the previous one.
Hey, does anybody have anything they would like to discuss before we open up the public hearing?
Seeing none, Steve Jones will make a motion to open the public hearing.
Brenda Flucy, I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye. That's unanimous. The public hearing is
I'm an
open.
aye too, I'm an aye too, Tammy.
Did I miss you? I looked
I'm not-
right at you.
I'm not offended. I'm not
sorry.
offended. Don't worry.
Because you're not at my right hand here. You're all the way on the left, wrong side of the screen. John?
No, aye. No
Okay.
worries.
Thank you. There's unanimous. Public, if you have anything again to add, it is raise your hand function on a device. You need to state your name and address for the record. If you're on a phone, it is *9. Anybody have anything that they would like to say?
Seeing none, Steve Jones will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Brenda Flucy, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye. That's unanimous. Closes. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss prior to moving on? Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, this will be my time to say thank you to everybody that's in charge of taking care of the museum. It's outstanding. that I've been there a few times and I've taken family members there, and just the history that it presents for the town of Tolland and the state of Connecticut overall. I truly appreciate all of you as far as what you do to maintain the museum, and it's something that I think is a true tribute to the town of Tolland. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to also just echo Councilor Luba's comments, especially growing up. I remember that being the teen center, and then I think for a while it was used as police substation. So it's great that it was repurposed and being geographically so close to the other historical buildings that it could be used for another facet of history. So thank you.
That was 100% improvement from the prior teen center from that, which was down by Crandall's, which was
Oh, yeah, that was,
Yeah.
Kathy. We've
yeah.
been here long enough to be able to say that. That was rough. Yes, I actually, the military museum is a great ad. I love it. So does anybody else have anything that they would like to discuss? All right, then all in favor of this motion, Brenda? I'm sorry, we don't have a motion. yet, do we?
I was going to see how far that would go.
No motion yet. So no discussion. All right, so Steve, make the long-winded.
Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that be it resolved by the town council that it hereby approves a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the lease renewal for 749 Tolland Stage Road between the town of Tolland and the Tolland Historical Society for April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031, approved by the Tolland Town Council on February 23rd, 2021.
Lulu, I'll second that one.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Gets us to number 3, consideration and approval of a lease renewal for 22 Tolland Green, the Arts of Tolland, between the town of Tolland and the Arts of Tolland, Inc. for the period, of April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031.
Great. So Mike Rosen, town manager, we actually have Mary Hoskin, president of the Arts of Tolland, is in attendance tonight, as well as Mike Wyman, the treasurer of the Arts of Tolland. I asked if they could be here in case there's any specific questions regarding this lease and what that building might be used for. It's similar to the previous two. It's the same period of time from March 31, 2021 through April 1, 2021 through March 31, 2031, 10 years. And it's also in the amount of $1 a year is the lease fee. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, any discussion before we open the public hearing? Not seeing any.
All right. Steve Jones, I make a motion that we open the public hearing for agenda item 6.3.
Brenda Felucci, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. If there's any public who would like to speak on this matter, you can raise your hand if you're on a device, and I will call on you. When I do, state your name and address for the record. If you are on a phone, it is *9. I need Jeopardy music in the background. All right, not seeing anybody.
Seeing none, Steve Jones, make a motion to close public hearing.
Lulu, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. All right, any discussion from counselors? I would like to say I love the Arts of Tolland building. I've really missed not having a lot of the stuff there, being able to go to the show. I went to the big one. I have the artwork sitting on my desk over there that I bought. It's a great use again of an old town building to kind of keep our green relevant and just appreciate it. I love that building and I love going there for the arts, and I missed the senior concert and that. So again, you guys have done an amazing job of keeping it up on the inside and on the outside and bringing in some really good shows for us. Anybody else have anything?
Sure.
Steve?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I don't know if this would be a question for Mary Oskin or Mike Wyman, but I was curious, Mike, if, I think it was asked a few weeks ago, or maybe last month, about use of the lodge in other buildings. And I was curious with some of the changes in state statute or state regulation due to COVID, if that's been updated at all, and if that impacts the arts building in terms of people wanting to rent it or use it for events and programs.
Yeah, Steve, when that came up, I believe we had not heard about any additional phasing. So the limits were still at, I think it was 50% capacity indoors, maximum of up to, I want to say 10 or 20 people. I forget what it was, but the governor did mention that in March, they're expected to basically double the numbers so that they're going to be higher maximum gathering limits. I think it's March 16th, around that time frame. When we were asked that question, I reached out to the health district about it, and it was advised at that time not to go back to doing the lodge or any of the other gatherings places, just for multiple reasons. One, just to prevent spread. The other was, would anybody really rent Crandall's Lodge and just have 5 or 10 people there? I don't know if it'd be cost effective to do that, things like that. So there were questions that were raised, but ultimately at that time, it was decided not to move forward with reopening those assets. But perhaps this is a decision point now. If things double in capacity, maybe it's time to revisit that. But I'm not sure where the Arts Center would, Arts of Tolland's building would fall under that. I'm assuming since it's not, it would probably have to comply with the governor's orders. So I would imagine, have any events happened in there since the COVID? No.
We basically are following the governor's proclamation and have not rented the building out to anybody. In fact, we've had some requests for very small groups, and we said, no, we're just not opening it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially consider 2 to 3 weeks ago when that question was raised, there was a lot of talk about the variants, the COVID variants out there, and vaccine rollout was still kind of being baked, and now it's more finalized now about how it's going to happen. But still, people won't be getting back. The general public will not be getting vaccine till May. It's age based, so you may want to wait till the summertime. Is probably my advice.
Yeah, that was my expectation too, is a lot of things would open back up and really kick back into a reasonable gear in the late spring and summertime. So, but thank you.
Sure.
I would hope that eventually we can, even if we got something like maybe an art show, that we could limit the amount of people that came to it. Because I don't know about anybody else, but all of my friends that are super creative have like piles upon piles of stuff that they've managed to do in the last year. They don't really have a lot of outlets for showing them. So I'm hoping maybe once it loosens up a little bit, we could see some of that maybe. But then again, there's a lot of regulations that we would have to make sure you don't have enough more people and all that in there, but it'd be nice to see. Have you had a lot of requests for anything like that, or just people looking to rent it?
Basically just people looking to rent either a birthday party or an anniversary or a piano recital, that type of stuff.
Brenda?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely love the Art Center. I've been there. I've taken art classes there, gone to meetings there when you guys used to rent out. Very much looking forward to you guys being open. I know a lot of docents at museums. I do understand that there's some concern with having artwork up and using the aerosols and sprays and stuff. How that impacts the artwork when it comes to keeping things safe. So I can't wait till you guys are open. I had one other question. It went out of my mind. I'm having trouble with my asthma, so having trouble breathing too. But thank you for everything you do. Thank you for bringing art into our community in working with so many different artists. Thank you for having the events that coincide with the tree lighting. You do the art mart. Is that the right name for it? I forget. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Really appreciated. You guys are a gem in the community, and thank you.
Okay, I don't see anything from anybody else. So, Steve?
Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that be it resolved by the Tolland Town Council that it hereby approves a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the lease, renewal for 22 Tolland Green between the town of Tolland and the Arts of Tolland, Inc. for April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2031, approved by the Tolland Town Council on February 23rd, 2021.
And DeFelici, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt,
Aye.
I'm an aye. That is unanimous. You have all now been approved for new 10-year leases.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. If you do not want to stay on, I totally respect that. But I appreciate having you all here.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you very much for renewing our leases.
You're very welcome.
Here's to successful another 10 years.
Well, we
Yes.
hope to be.
Yes.
You all-
Okay, that gets us to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. Brenda, do you have anything for tonight?
Yes, sustainable, I'm sorry, tourism. We had 2 meetings. We had one about advertising and we had a board meeting. We're very excited to say that our budget is in the governor's budget, that we will be having the same funding as last year. We're taking a look and ensuring that information is out there to help with the recovery and with the reopening. We're really excited to see that the research we've been doing shows that there is a surge for this summer, that people are looking at seeing they're going to be getting their vaccines in March, April, and May, and that by the summer, they'll be able to go out and experience some of the wonderful things that Connecticut has. Something else that we're really excited about is we've had a lot of people move into Connecticut from surrounding states, mainly New York, but also some from Massachusetts. These people may not have experienced some of the wonderful things that our communities have, and we're going to make sure that we share information to help them, invite them into our communities and find out what kinds of museums and restaurants and outdoor living that we have, anything in tourism and hospitality. We're releasing a number of videos starting next week. The first one is about skiing because we still have snow. But there's going to be a lot of videos about certain small pockets of our communities in Connecticut. So we're really excited about that. We have a full year of events going on, and you'll be able to see electronic versions of brochures that will be released. And hopefully those will help because people aren't heading out quite yet to go pick up brochures, but we're thinking having them online is going to be helpful. So that's for tourism. For sustainable CT, Mike, we didn't have a meeting last week because we were a little short-staffed, and we need to schedule one soon so that we meet our quarterly requirements.
I'll talk to, yep, thank you.
Yeah, and we just need to basically get together. So, somebody host it and we have it. I do have a lot of fun things and exciting things going on with Sustainable CT, and a lot of things that we can do without using much of our workforce, because we understand that they're pretty busy during budget season. So thank you.
So Brenda, you may be interested to know, there's also a bill right now that's being proposed, House Bill 6119, that is looking at actually increasing the amount of money that's going to the
Yeah,
tourism.
we looked at that, and we're actually very comfortable where we are. The tourism regions were set up to be advertising basically, and not grant writers, if I'm thinking of the same bill. So we're not equipped, and we're very comfortable with what we're doing to help an entire region. If we start getting in the grant writing business.
I don't want to interrupt you, but this one has nothing to do with grant writing.
That's not
at all.
100,000 increase?
No, this one is the original statute that went into place the tax that we have on hotels, a certain percentage of it was given to tourism and that, and it was, it's a 10% right now. And the bill is to increase the amount to 25% from 10% of the existing tax that's already there. So it would just be a bump in the amount of money that they're looking at allocating to the whole tourism program for the state of Connecticut.
Right. We didn't feel that that bill was going to move forward based on the performance of the other two regions. So we're not expecting that money. If it comes through, obviously awesome, great, but we're not expecting that money.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume you would expect it. It would have to move forward. I just think it's a good bill to watch. It's an interesting bill. Let's see. All right. So now we're up to reports of town council liaisons. So Brenda.
Yes, so Light Committee, the next meeting is canceled. We haven't had one since the last report. Planning and Zoning had a meeting last night. One of the things that they discussed was the TVA. I was not able to be there because we had our joint meeting, Board of Ed and Town Council, and I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. They will be posted if they have not already been posted online. So I will refer you to those. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Cassandra?
Sorry about that. PCC meets on Thursday, so I'll have something for our next meeting.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, Steve Jones. So February 11th, Tolland Conservation Commission was supposed to have their meeting, but due to technical difficulties, it was canceled. There is a packet up. They had some informal discussions regarding meeting with a state forester, snowmobile issues on the Walnut property, and drafting letters to property owners adjacent to conservation areas. They also have a meeting this Thursday, so probably a lot of the business they wanted to take care of earlier this month will be addressed there. And then on the 17th, the Water Commission met. There was a report of a possible leak on Woodhenge Drive. CWC did do a visual and audio inspection and didn't see anything immediately, but they're going to wait to see about the snow melt if there might be a groundwater breakout in that area. I guess there is some history of that area having leak issues to a particular house, so they're keeping an eye on that. One item of note, I'm just seeing if I can pull up the motion. They did contract or request CWC to work with the town in terms of establishing the water line for the proposed Santini property, just sort of getting the process, not really putting the cart before the horse, but it just allows for them to begin exploring that possibility of what it would take to reconnect a line or add a line from that proposed development to the main water system. And other than that, their finances are really good, still up on everything. People are still home and utilizing water more frequently in those areas. So I believe they're up about $250,000 on their cash and around $90,000 in net income year to year.
Great. John?
WPCA did not meet, so nothing to report this week.
Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair, that the Birch Grove Building Committee did meet, that we did cover some of the issues as far as the change orders, that we are anticipating that hopefully by at the next meeting that we can remove the unsuitable soils from release the budget that we were holding back on that. That way it will give us some additional funding to go forward with some of the other projects that we were looking at for the school. That I know that myself, as well as other members of the town council and the Board of Education, as well as the building committee, did take a tour of Birch Grove. It's amazing to see how far along it's come. That there were some questions that we had about some of the layout of the building and some of the finishing work on it. But it's, I mean, it's going exceedingly well. And as the project manager said, knock on wood that we are on track, if not early. So that's what developed there. Then for Board of Education, as Ms. Felucci said that we did have our joint town council BOE meeting last night to discuss the proposed Board of Education budget. That's what's been going on with them, and that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kurt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have not had any meetings since our last town council meeting. Just like to let you know that EDC is going to meet next Wednesday, March 3rd, and the representative from Advanced CT is going to be there. So hopefully it will be very informative for them. So if anyone's interested.
You said Wednesday?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, so I had a meeting with the Commission on People with Disabilities, and we really were going over the survey, which I believe, Mike, it went out, correct?
I do not know the answer to that. I have to verify that. I'll ask Bev.
Yeah, I think either it went out or it is on the verge of going out, and that will be it's a wider survey of all of Connecticut, but it will provide us information on people in Tolland who are rating services and what's important to them. So I can't wait to hear back what we get. I also had a meeting with the Eastern Highland Health District. Mike was there. So they are administering approximately 300 first dose shots a week. And they're looking at a change in the model for the next phase rollout with the teachers. They are going to be setting up clinics probably in the schools to handle that entire populace at a time, which is a different model for them because they have been in one single location administering shots. But they're also kind of waiting to see what their allocation is going to be of the vaccine. So there's a lot that's going on over there with the vaccine. They're really kind of running around a lot to get as much done as they can and handling issues with the van system and the other things that kind of creep up. So that was really the majority of our meeting. Mike, do you have anything else? It was mainly vaccine driven.
Yes, I would agree. It's mostly vaccine driven. And we also reported, as I did at the last council meeting, that Tolland, due to our geography and our close relationship with the town of Vernon, our residents are able to utilize the Vernon call center as well as the health district's Mansfield location for vaccines. So we did send out an e-blast earlier today through the town website that March 1st, the age group of 55 or age 55 to age 64 will be eligible for vaccinations. And as always, which way you can get a vaccine, if you're interested in getting one, please do so. And just know that as a Tolland resident, you are also able to go through the Vernon call center, and that number was included as part of the press release that went out earlier today on the town website. So again, that number is 860-896-4568. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to definitely thank Senator Champagne for helping set that up. Like you said, it's a good working relationship, and us being able to utilize what Vernon has going on is it's pivotal. It's definitely worthy of the thanks. So I think that's everything for us. That gets us to 8.1 new business, which is appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards. And we have two tonight: the appointment for the Nonprofit Housing Corporation and then the Tolland Mental Health and Substance Use Advisory Task Force.
Right. So the Nonprofit Housing Corporation is one new member, and then the Mental Health Task Force is the full docket. So Christine Irizarry is looking to be appointed for the remainder of the term, 7/1/2020 to 7/1/2025 for Tolland Nonprofit Housing Corporation. So that we can do that one first.
Yeah, I think we should do them separate. Steve, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that we appoint Christine Irizarry of Sandy Run Rolling Meadow for the remainder of the term 7/1/2020 to 7/1/2025 for the Tolland Nonprofit Housing Corporation.
Move
This is any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Brenda?
Thank you, and I.
Cassandra?
Sorry, I'm having problems with my computer. Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
Three guys for a whoop there, huh? Lou?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now we get to B.
I'll probably, if you don't mind, I might just turn this over to Steve and Lou as our council's vetting agency of candidates. I know between Steve and Lou, they interviewed all the candidates. So I don't know if you gentlemen would like to say anything.
Sure. Just want to thank everyone for reaching out, and it's a very lengthy but worthwhile process to be engaged. While we didn't fill the entire slate, we had a sort of late withdrawal. We're hoping that maybe once this group is established, that vacancy might be refilled for the 13th position, which is another alternate. But very excited by the diversity and experiences that this group will provide.
Yes, and I'd like to echo everything that Mr. Jones said, that this is that we were blessed to have an outstanding slate of candidates, where it was really great to be able to interview them, be able to speak to them, to see how what their ideas are for the task force, and just their outstanding qualifications and dedication. That I think that we are very fortunate, and I think that they will do an outstanding job in putting together, in reviewing what we have, and putting together some solid recommendations for the town council and all town organizations to incorporate. So I would fully endorse this slate that we put forward, of course, because we were the ones that interviewed them. But I think that that we're very lucky to have them. Thank you.
And just so for the record, the slate, which I know we're going to get into in a moment, but all members run on the same term, which is February 24th, tomorrow, to 2021 through indefinite, because this is a task force, and the idea being that the task force will dissolve once the mission is complete. There are 6 members at large, 1 alternate at large, 1 vacancy for an alternate going forward, and then you have 2 counselors and 3 Board of Ed members that are comprising this committee. All are voting members.
So have they been notified, or we vote and then they get notified?
The way we usually do it, I had responded to an email about this the other day. We notify after appointments are made.
Okay. So after they are notified, I think we should put a joint meeting on to sit down and talk to them, just to kind of go over, the whole thing with the task force and everything else, have Bev there, have, any other pertinent players there. So I think we can try to look to get that on a schedule coming up. I know it's dicey in March with a budget. So maybe towards the end of the month or something. I don't know. We'll sit down and talk about timing and putting it on an agenda. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the people who are on the slate? No. All right, then.
Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that the following individuals be appointed to the Tolland Mental Health and Substance Use Advisory Task Force for a term of 2/24/2021 to indefinite, as follows: Tracy DeCarli, Daryl Irwin, Becky Moore, Carlene Ohmsen, Susan Salen, Amanda Sharkus, Gerald Giannuzos, John Regan, Kurt Schenner, Tony Holt, Jacob Mari, and Madhu Randuchintala.
This is Brenda Felucci, I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor: Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
I'm an aye. That is unanimous. Thank you all so much for your willingness to step up and your service to this. And I can't wait to sit down and kind of talk to everybody and get to meet everyone. So, all right. Let's see. That gets us to 9, old business. 9.1, continued discussion and consideration of a statement about racism by the Tolland Town Council.
Hi, Mike Rosen, Town Manager. Thank you to the counselors who gave me some wording and their thoughts in draft form. What I've provided tonight is my best attempt at combining and trying to make it as fluid as possible all of the responses that were given to me about this important topic. So the draft that's in your packet, I was able to get it down onto one page, but the format and everything is just sort of my own stylistic approach to it. But everything is negotiable here. So if this is just my first attempt at trying to put something together for you to discuss tonight, and any thoughts or edits, I will take notes. And if we need to come back again, we can give you another draft, or if you think it's good to go tonight, you can sign it.
Perfect. Okay, so how I think we should do this here is, I'm sure everybody's had an opportunity to look at Mike's draft. For me personally, it is important that this statement be measurable and something that we can all say we can actively work towards and show what we're doing to do it. So that's how I'm kind of coming into all of this. So I don't know if we want to take this section by section and discuss it, or first, I guess I should ask if anybody has any feedback on anything particular in the statement that they would like to discuss, or would you rather just kind of go section by section? Kurt?
Yeah, I think if we can do section by section, that'll just kind of help streamline the process, I think.
Okay.
That's just my input on that. Thanks.
Okay, I'm good with that. Brenda?
I'd like to echo that we should go section by section, but I also want to recognize that I'm a little embarrassed that it's 7 white people, probably all cisgender, sitting here creating a statement on racism, and we're not getting any input from our BIPOC community or from any people who have experience or training on this. One thing that I suggest that we do is have a meeting where we can have someone from Sustainable CT come in, have the equity coach come in and have a conversation with our BIPOC community, find out where they feel we need to address racism in the town, and work together to come up with a statement.
Thank you. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard, I think this is something we over the past month and a half or so that we've gotten input from many people on many different levels, including members of our BIPOC community, regarding the issue of racism. And I think that this incorporates all the input that they provided us. I don't think that any one of us put forward any recommendations to this statement that did not incorporate or at least reflect some of the comments and some of the issues that were brought up. That we heard them. That for myself personally, that I did take them to heart and did really consider them as we were putting together this statement here. I think that it reflects those that input that we were provided by the members of the community, including our BIPOC community, and that I think it's something that we can move forward with. And I think I would again concur with you, Madam Chair, that one thing that we need to do, since this is a statement regarding the town council and our position, that it's something that is for us. It's not necessarily something for the entire community, and we need to make that clear that this is our statement. But it also needs to be measurable. That we need to have certain metrics and need to be able to set things that we can see and judge how well we are abiding by them, abiding by these goals, and also have it measurable so that we can then say this is where we are doing well and this is where we're failing, instead of just a sort of our own personal view, but have certain metrics that can be achieved and that we can say this is how well we've done in either achieving, or this is how well this is how far we've fallen behind. So I think that that's something that needs to be done with as you stated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The way I approach this is I have my own thoughts in my mind, and then I did consider all the responses we got from the community. I had some spirited discussions back and forth with multiple members of the community. Maybe didn't come to agreement on certain things, but it did develop the input that I had to this document. So I don't agree with the fact that it's just a white council creating this document. It's a white council creating this document with input from the community. Anybody who was interested in sending in input, that was taken into consideration, and it did help to form the suggestions that I made for this document, which Mr. Rosen did include in here. So I'm comfortable with this, and I'm comfortable with the process that we formulated to produce this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think it's important to point out that this is the town council's statement. So, you know, the second paragraph even starts as elected representatives of the town of Tolland. So I'm comfortable with making the statement from the input that we've all had or that we've all provided here to Mike at this point. So in light of what was said in regard to going through it, we'll go through it section by section. So the first section is just a line: prejudice in all forms is a blight that only serves to harm all of society. I'm good with that. Steve.
So I'm actually gonna possibly disagree with you on that. I did have a few conversations with people that it felt it took away from the intent of the statement being against racism, and that I think our first line works very strongly to make that statement clear that, you know, that's what's being discussed. So if it stays, you know, that is, you know, fine if people are in the majority are in favor of it, but I think it could be removed and help elevate that first sentence to be more strongly upfront and known to the public.
You mean the as elected representatives of town of Tolland being stronger, or
Yeah,
just take that sentence out, like it's just superfluous?
Yeah, just striking that entire first sentence and then just using that second paragraph as our first paragraph, so to speak.
I don't object to that. Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you. I was also going to ask to strike the first line. We're talking about racism, not prejudice. Prejudice is more than racism. You can be, the definition just doesn't fit with what we're doing. So I'd like to see that line stricken.
Anybody else have any strong for or against feelings on the first line? No. I'm fine with it being not there. Okay, so, well, that's three of us. If anybody else objects, does anybody else object if we remove it? How about that? I'm trying to look for feedback here.
I am seeing Kurt shake his head. I'm assuming that's a.
I do not object to having it removed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with it too.
Okay. All right, Mike, I think first edit, strike line 1. Okay. The next section: as elected representatives of the town of Tolland, we condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form, and look to promote authentic dialogues about race, diversity, and inclusion. We acknowledge that racism can be unconscious or unintentional, and that identifying racism as an issue does not automatically mean those involved in the act are racist or intended the negative impact. Does anybody have any feedback on this paragraph? Steve.
I'm fine with it as is. I know there was a question. I think someone reached out to me whether or not with that language, it meant that our intent was to share this message with other elected boards for them to possibly adopt or amend to be germane to their own group.
Well, I think the intent was we come up with a statement and then share it. And if the other boards want to sign on to it, they can. And I think that's maybe why there's elected representatives of the town of Tolland rather than the
so
council.
It was just a clarifying question.
Yeah,
that's what I assumed.
it's a good segue. I would think it's a good segue to get if other boards wanted to sign on to this also.
Okay.
As long as it's nothing in here is at the bottom, we do say as a town council. So when we get to that paragraph, we could address that if we're looking to make it more of a statement that we would like to kind of circulate and get buy-in.
Okay.
But I think that part there right now, if our intent was to do that as elected representatives of the town of Tolland, I think that would work. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, no, overall I'm fine with the language. I just wanted to ask if it was being is around, so I was just hoping that would clarify it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Brenda?
Yes, I'm really only good with the first line in that. I had a lot of feedback from members of the community who feel that the second sentence tends to dismiss or create, gosh, I'm sorry, not getting enough air to be able to form my words. It seems to dismiss or excuse, I think this is what I'm looking for, racism. We understand, you know, so I'd like to just keep the first sentence. I think the second sentence, it seems like we're just trying to excuse our actions and the historical systemic racism that has happened in our community. So.
Anybody else have any feelings for or against the second sentence? I think the first sentence is strong. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I would agree. I mean, if it's something that that based upon Ms. Faluzzi's input, that she feels does not need to be added in there, I would have no issue with it being removed.
Yep. So, anybody else have anything?
If the majority is, sorry, Steve Jones, if the majority is okay with removing the second sentence, I'm okay with that as well. I understand the intent of it, but if there are concerns, I would rather err on the side of caution and make it more direct and succinct than have additional language.
Yeah, I like the first sentence. It's very strong. All right. So does anybody have a problem with removing the second sentence? I'm just
fine with
looking
it.
for a
I'm fine
head
with it.
shake of everybody. We're all good?
Good.
All right, Mike, I think we could probably scrap that second sentence there and just leave as elected representatives of the town of Tolland, we condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form and look to promote authentic dialogues about race, diversity, and inclusion. All right, now we have 5 points here. This is where I'm saying we should be thinking about how we do these things and if they are measurable. So we're not just saying words to say words. So now here we're saying as a council, if the intent is to have this be something that other boards can sign onto, we may want to discuss the council language, even more importantly, if we put these 5 dots in, are they something that can transfer over to other boards or not? Or if this is truly going to be specifically council goals. So the first one, I'm assuming we're all good with, as a council, we will endeavor to. So I'm just gonna go on to the first one here, to continuously evaluate the policies / ordinances we implement or update in order to ensure they hold these values and standards. Okay, everybody's hand went up and everybody's hand went down. I don't know what y'all are raising your hands for, but if you want to raise them again, if you have something, Steve, I'm calling in Steve because his hand is up.
All right, so I will say I do find the first bullet point does seem pretty reasonable. I was just going to add for that first line, as we go through the rest of the document, if we decide this to be something shared amongst other boards and commissions, I would probably recommend the removal of any mention of council or town council and replace it with elected representatives. So that would just be my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's where I was going to end up going. If we decide to say, yes, we would like to share this with others and it's not too council specific, that it would end up being again as elected representatives of the town of Tolland. It's kind of like the whereas is going to be our standard here. So
yeah,
thank you. But you're good with bullet 1.
I'm sorry,
Steve?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Hold
I
on
just
1
want
second. Wait.
to.
No, Lou, hold on. Steve, are you good with bullet 1?
yeah. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Lou.
I'm sorry. Going along the same lines of what Mr. Jones was saying, as well as yourself, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry for jumping ahead, but I think that's something that's going to affect the language that we have here, is that we are the only ones that can pass ordinances, can hire or fire people. And so there's a lot of things that are town council specific.
True.
So I think that we need to keep it, that this is something that the other boards and other organizations and other elected officials can use this as their own sort of mirror, but that they can adopt the bullets as is. So I think that going forward, that these are the things that the council can do. And if they want to mirror our policy here or might mirror our statement, they can do that, but they would need to implement their own statement on their own, because otherwise none of these things can be accomplished by any of the other boards.
Right, I think some of them maybe could be, but I do agree not all of them. Like if we thought about our elected boards, we could say evaluate policies, ordinances, because the Board of Ed has policies, ordinances is us, and what zoning is ordinances also. But there are definitely things in here. Municipal employees, the Board of Ed could say that, but planning and zoning could not. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. So we'll keep going through the bullets, and then we'll just point out which ones we could probably have an issue with if we tried to expand it, or if we would have to kind of modify it. Did you have anything else, Lou, in regards to bullet one?
No, and again, I'm sorry for jumping. It's just one of those things. I just wanted to frame the conversation about it so that we don't go through everyone else and then have to go back.
Thank you. That's all right. No problem. Point of order. I got it. Brenda. No, I'm sorry. Kurt.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I was going to talk about who this is written for. I would prefer this be written as a town council document, and if other boards want to endeavor in this process, I think that was a very informative portion of it, not more so than just copying and pasting what we have already done. Obviously, they could use ours as a template, but I think it would be serve some value for the boards themselves if they wish to take upon this. Take this upon themselves to do it, is to write their own. And so that's why I don't want to get too concerned about board specific language, and I would like to tailor it more to town council. Again, giving other boards, elected members, the opportunity to craft their own statement.
That's true. If they used ours as like a template, they could make theirs more specific. There might be something that they have more impact on than areas that we do. So good, fair point, fair point. Brenda?
Yes, thank you. It says at the end, we will, to ensure they uphold these values and standards. What values and standards? Have we defined those clearly?
I would think they were referring to that we condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form. So maybe, I shouldn't assume, but we uphold these statements. How about that? Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that also that this is an opening statement that sort of covers the entire statement that we're having here. So in order to ensure they uphold these values and standards, I think it reflects everything that we're presenting inside the entire document. So I don't think it's something that, I mean, looking at it individually as a statement, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense, but when you look at it and it covers, it's the opening part of all this, of the entire statement and all the bullets, I think that's something that would still be able to be a measurable effect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a suggestion then. I'm thinking as a council, we endeavor to uphold these values and standards and then have the bullets after them. The first one being continuously evaluate the policies and ordinances we implement or update. End it there.
I like that. That sounds good to me.
Kurt?
Yeah, I like that. I was going to also echo what Brenda had mentioned with the kind of the vagueness of values and standards. So I do like your proposal a lot better than how it's written currently.
Okay, Brenda?
Continuously evaluate the policy and ordinances we implement or update. Continuously evaluate for what? You know, we need to say why we're evaluating them. We evaluate them for everything. We need to state why we're doing that, or what we're trying to accomplish when we are doing this.
Let's see. So, Mike, if we changed as a council, we will endeavor to uphold these values and standards, put that up there, take that off down here, continuously evaluate the policy and ordinances we implement or update. How do we want to word that to ensure?
This is why I was recommending we get an expert in here.
I think we can do this. Let's see. You know, it's our statement, so I think it's fine. I think we can work through this here. Yes, Lou? You're on mute.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. That I think that it's something that that's something that we do as part of our normal practice. We review our policies and ordinances and implement or update them. So I think that that goes along. Again, we're looking at this as in the vacuum, and if you look at each one of these statements in a vacuum, it may not make sense. But we're saying that we will endeavor to uphold these values and standards of, as we put before, condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form, and look to develop this. So I think that that's something where, again, we're looking to, we're continuously evaluating our policies and ordinances we implement or update. And again, this is that as a council, we will endeavor to, that ties it all in together. So I think that we have it sufficiently covered here. And I think it's something that, that leaving it as is, that we, when we do this, that we make sure that we keep that in mind, that that we need to evaluate it for any of the issues that we put forward regarding racism earlier. Thank you.
Okay. Cassandra.
I'm so much better at editing when I'm writing, but anyway, so just to match Brenda's request, what we want to say here is we are continuously evaluating the policy or ordinances we implement or update to match our goals of condemning racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form.
Did anybody else have anything on that? I think we can let's put that one on the parking lot for now to think of how we can figure that out. Let's see, let's go on to the second one. Look for opportunities to educate citizens on the negative impact racism and prejudice have on our town. Anybody have anything on that one? Brenda?
Yeah, looking at opportunities to educate our citizens. It's not just our citizens of our town that we want to educate. It's us also. We're constantly going to have to learn how to check our biases. We're constantly going to have to find out how our policies and ordinances create systemic racism or impact systemic racism. We're constantly going to have to look to experts to help us with this. So I don't think that it's just educating the citizens. Also our workforce, some of our workforce is not our citizens, and we may need to, there may come a time that we need to help with education on our workforce when it comes to racism. So
well, I think we, I'm sorry, I think we addressed the employees in the next bullet. So I don't mind keeping them separate because
we're talking education. In the second bullet is policies and practices. Those are two separate items.
I'm still, we're on the, are you talking about the first bullet still?
I'm talking about this. I thought we were on the second bullet.
Second bullet, yeah.
Yes, so in this second bullet, it talks about education specifically. The third bullet is talking about policy and practices with municipal employees. I'm saying that educating our citizens, it seems like we want to educate our citizens on racism as a town council, where I think we want to provide educational opportunities to the entire town, not just our citizens. It can be our workforce, it could be us on the town council, etc.
So look for
I also want to remove the word prejudice because
so look for opportunities to provide education to our community.
Sure. And remove the word prejudice. Because we're talking about racism, not prejudice.
Thank you. Cassandra.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to lower my hand in time, but yes, you nailed it right there.
So look for opportunities to educate our community, Mike, on the negative impacts.
I have looked for opportunities to provide education to our community on the negative impacts
Sure.
racism has on our town.
Yep. That works. Anybody else have anything on that?
I just lowered my hand, but I agree with that. That's fine. Sorry. I just wanted to get tripped up about that. I know everyone's raising and lowering their hands ad hoc, so.
So you don't have anything then, Steve? You're good?
No, I'm good.
You were just testing out the hand thing. I got it. Okay. All right. 3, ensure our municipal employees have policies and practices in place that safeguard employment or that services that safeguard employment or that services are not denied. Holy moly, I can't read. Based on race or other protected trait. Brenda.
It just seemed a little wordy there. So how about evaluate and revise policies and procedures to ensure they're anti-racist? Because it's, it's not just our employees. It sounds like we're ensuring that our municipal employees, it sounds like we're highlighting them and saying that they're the issue, when it's really not. It's our policies and our procedures that are racist. I mean, obviously, that we have protections in human resources that if, for employees, but it's our policies and procedures, I think. So we need to evaluate and revise policies and procedures to ensure that they are anti-racist.
Let me think on that one, how to kind of word that there. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I think that this is something where we have to look at what we can affect and what we have control over as a town council. That this is something where we're looking to make sure, I mean, if there's we're looking to make sure that there are policies and practices put in place, that we're not saying that it's simply our municipal employees, but that to ensure that we have them policies and procedures for them to make sure that there is no racial bias, there's no racism involved in any of the practices or procedures that we have going on in town hall, in any other places that we have, that the town has control over. So I think that that's something that's appropriate, and I think that that the way that it's worded would be sufficient.
How about ensure our policies and practices safeguard employment?
I would have no objection to that.
I'm trying to think if we take out the municipal employees piece of it and focus on ensuring that, because all of this bullet here to me is about ensuring that the town, so in this case, town manager and other managers who are hiring people are making sure that we have the policies and practices in place, because I don't think we do the policies on hiring, correct? That's like contractual and such.
So we have a personnel policy that we use when we go through the hiring process, and there are union bargaining agreements as well. But the council, as demonstrated when we recently were going through the planning director search, you do have a say when it comes to department head hirings, but non-department head levels, that's done internally through the personnel procedures.
Right. So, in your opinion, just do you think is it worthy or not worthy to have a municipal employees piece in here, or do you feel like you guys are covered with the policies that you have there? If we make this more about safeguarding employment and that services, because that's the other one too, that services are not denied based on race or other protected trait.
Well, if you don't have municipal employees, then who are you going to be
Yeah.
ensuring this over?
Right.
Because can you insure this over the private sector? I
No.
don't know about that.
No. So, and I think that's the point of this here is again, what we control and what we can measure on. So our making sure that our municipal employees have policies and practices in place that safeguard employment and that services are not denied based on race or other protected trait. I think that's the kind of the gist of it there. But Brenda.
Yes, we already have an anti-discrimination policy on our webpage.
Yep.
That already addresses this. So it's a little redundant, and I also don't know what protected trait means. But again, we're talking about racism here. So, and just to let you know, I have racial biases. We all have racial biases. So you can't say that you're going to hire people that don't have any bias. It's ingrained in me. I'm 50 something years old. I won't give you the exact number, but I grew up with them. I try every day to identify them and work against having them. So you can't say you can hire people and ensure that they're going to be unbiased. I mean, I won't eat peas. I'm biased against peas, but I think you get what I'm saying here.
Thank you.
I'd rather have this about policies and procedures, ensuring that they're anti-racist.
Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Then maybe we could go ensure that we have policy, ensure our policies and practices. Let's see, I'm trying to go as I go along here. That we have ensure that we have policies and practices in place to ensure that services are not denied, that town services are not denied based on race, accepting Ms. Felucci's issue regarding the protected traits, which actually is legal definition that has legal effect to it. But if she wants that removed, then I have no objection to that being removed. But ensure we have policies and practices in place to ensure that services are not denied based upon race. That's something that we can go forward with.
Let's see. Oh, Lou, you gotta put your hand down there. All right. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of liked this one being focusing in on the services the town provides and our hiring practices to make sure that all of our policies and practices and then henceforth our employees are aware of those policies and practices. So I agree with kind of what Mike said though, like if we don't have municipal employees in there, then who are we aiming this at? So I'm trying to think of a way to kind of word this if we didn't have municipal employees in there. But again, I like the in place safeguard employment and that services are not denied based on race. Up, down with the hands, up, down, up, down.
All right.
I'm not gonna call either of you anymore. Go
Do
ahead.
you want to take a straw poll on this specific one then? Or do we want to wait until the end and sort of go through everything at the end? Because I think this is one that we're sort of held up on.
It's a good point. I will think on that. Steve?
I was just going to offer as a friendly amendment, instead of municipal employees, it could be we ensure our municipal government, because then it would encompass all employees and staff, including temporary and part-time staff that are hired for town services, whether it's Parks and Rec or Public Works for various seasonal opportunities, as well as our full-time staff.
Did you catch that, Mike? What he said?
So ensure our municipal government has policies and practices, et cetera.
Yeah.
I like that. Brenda?
Then I would just like to propose that we add the bullet that I had that says evaluate and revise policies and procedures to ensure that they are anti-racist. So this way you guys can address the government and the policies, which I think are already protected under our anti-discrimination clauses and equal opportunity items that are up there. I don't see Mike Wilkinson on the call, so he can't speak to that. But then we can also have something about encompassing all of our policies and procedures and not just personnel, and ensuring that they're anti-racist.
Well, I think the first bullet evaluates the policies that we put in place. And this one here is the government one, right?
May I just call your attention to the second to last paragraph has something similar. If you want to move that up as a bullet.
Second to last paragraph. So we are resolved to our anti-racist commitment.
Yeah, please, if you read that, it's sort of in line with what Councilor Felucci is saying.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll get to that one. All right, so I like the change of municipal government. And Lou, is your hand up again, or was it from last time?
It was up again. I think that that as proposed by Mr. Jones, that the adding in the municipal government, I think that just making that change, that would sufficiently encompass what we're trying to achieve here. Thank you.
Okay, so municipal government. All right, purposefully identify, discuss, and challenge issues of race and color and the impacts they have on our community. Anybody have anything on that one?
I do not. I think that's a pretty solid bullet point.
Brenda?
I would like some input on if we should be using the terms race and color and the impacts they have on our community. I feel that wording is not correct in some way. So I think we're talking specifically about racism. So maybe purposely identify, discuss, and challenge issues of racism and the impacts it has on our community.
I could go there. I'm good with that. Change race and color to racism. Does anybody object to that?
Nope.
Lots of shaking heads. So Mike, I would take out issues of race and color and make that issues of racism.
Okay, and so issues of racism and the impact it has.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Got it. Okay. Last one. Challenge ourselves to understand and correct any inequities we may discover and gain a better understanding of ourselves during this purposeful process. Challenge ourselves to understand and correct any inequities we may discover. So if we find something.
It's redundant, isn't it? Isn't that what every other sentence has said? In a way.
In a roundabouts, yeah, I would say challenge ourselves to understand and correct any inequity. Yes, because anything that we find like and above the municipal government or our policies, we will. Anybody else have any feedback on that one? Steve?
I was just going to concur if the desire is to strike that because it's redundant, then I'm fine with that.
Okay. Mike, anybody else have object to striking that last bullet? Oh, Kurt?
Oh, I don't object to that. I'm in favor of striking that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Mike, I think we can probably get rid of that one. All right, this one is the next, it's a paragraph. It is through fair and open discussion, humility and respect that we can learn from each other and from the community where we live and work to appropriately address these issues facing our town, state, and nation. As a town council, we encourage open dialogue and the the respectful exchange of ideas from all members of our community with the goal of helping all residents of Tolland understand that they belong to a welcoming community that values diversity and rejects racism and discrimination in all forms. Steve.
My apologies, Madam Chair. My hand was just still up from the past bullet point, so I'm all set.
That's okay. Brenda.
Yes. The first paragraph where it says to appropriately address these issues, I think we need to say, because I think we need to say, to appropriately address racism. Because, that's the one issue. I just threw my pen. That's the one issue we're talking about here. And if we want this to be a powerful statement, we need to address that. And at the last, it says the last sentence, and rejects racism and discrimination in all forms. Again, we're just talking about racism. Obviously, we all agree that discrimination is inappropriate, but again, this is a statement about racism, so let's stick to the one subject matter.
So Mike, I think the idea right now is that to appropriately address racism in our town.
I noted that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything on that? John?
I agree with everything that Councilwoman Felucci just said. I'm fine with that. But as far as addressing racism facing our town, state, nation, we're not going to address anything at the state and national level. So I think those should be taken out and just leave town in there.
True. I think we should, if we focus it in on the town, that's fine. The second part, though, there's a little bit of repetitiveness in there. Like, as a town council, we encourage open dialogue. We talk about open dialogue above. So maybe we say, maybe we start it out as a town council. We encourage fair and open, or no, not encourage. We something fair and open discussion, because this open dialogue, open discussion is kind of the same thing. The respectful exchange of ideas, well, community with the goal of helping out residents. Tolland. I like the rest of it. If we ended at rejects racism, take out and discrimination in all forms. But I don't mind it being there, because above in the other paragraph, we also say that too. As elected representative of the town of Tolland, we condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form. So it's repetitive from the one above it, but I don't mind if discrimination stays, because I think they're, kind of symbiotic, but.
And maybe add bigotry there too. If you want to be consistent.
Consistency, yep. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would concur with Ms. Felucci that adding in the bigotry in the lower one as well. I would agree with Mr. Reagan regarding removal of the state and nation, since this is a town council statement, and I think that making those changes recommended to regarding racism and striking the discrimination, I think that that's something would be appropriate as well. Thank you.
Okay, so Mike, how about if we take out, in that second line, take out as the town council, and we just start it with we encourage, and then say the respectful exchange of ideas from all members of our community with the goal of helping all residents, all of that, values diversity and rejects racism, bigotry, and discrimination. And take out in all forms.
Oh, we're taking out in all forms also? Okay, I can.
Yeah. That's my suggestion anyway. Lou, is your hand still up, or do you have something else? It's just up. Okay, Brenda.
Yes, I just want to speak to where it says, these are issues that are facing our town, state, and nation. I think we're just acknowledging that it is not just in the town, that it is in the town, the state, and the nation, that we aren't alone in this fight. And I think we also need to acknowledge that as a town, we're part of a larger community. We're part of the community of that in Connecticut. what happens in our town does impact our neighboring communities, and it does impact our state and even our nation in some respects. Anything like certain parts of systemic racism do impact other parts of our community, even though it's only an action that's happening here in our town, and vice versa. There's items that are happening outside of our community that impact, you know, what's happening inside the town. I don't see that that this statement says that we are trying to change the state and the nation. It says that we're acknowledging that racism is in the town, it is present in the state, and it is present in the nation.
So it would say to appropriately address racism in our town, state, and nation. That's what we have, right, Mike?
But we'll appropriately address these issues facing our town, state, and nation. So
This isn't.
but we're just acknowledging it's there, basically.
But I thought we said we were changing these issues.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it says it's
Right,
address racism. Yeah.
Address racism
Okay,
in our,
right, I'm sorry.
yeah.
It's like when you don't have a electronic, if we had someone sharing their screen and doing changes on the fly, it'd be a lot easier to be able to follow.
Very good point.
I'm going to step away from the computer for a minute. I need to go use some medicine. I'll be back. As soon as my video is back on, I'll be back. I apologize.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. So I think if we, do you have what we wanted to change there, Mike? As a
Yeah, I can read. I'll try to read, you know, the final document at the end, you know, but it's all, I have it physically marked up here. So for this, let me try to read back this paragraph. It is through fair and open discussion, humility, and respect that we can learn from each other and from the community where we live and work to appropriately address racism facing our town, state, and nation. That's to be determined if that's going to stay in, but we encourage the respectful exchange of ideas from all members of our community with the goal of helping all residents of Tolland understand that they belong to a welcoming community that values diversity and rejects racism, bigotry, and discrimination.
I like that. Anybody else? John?
Well, I'd like to revisit the state and nation. I think we need to consider our role here as a town council. Our role is to conduct the business of the town. And I've said this in the past when other issues have come up on a national level. So I disagree with leaving state and nation in there. This is a town council. We need to focus on the town. What we do does affect neighboring towns, but as those issues come up that other neighboring towns may be affected by what we do, then we consider that. But this is a town council, and state and nation does not belong in this document. I can't support that.
Okay. Anybody else? Have anything on that one? To or from? I mean, for or against the state nation piece of it?
This is Lou. I would have no objection if that's removed.
Okay. Anybody else? Steve?
My lean would be towards keeping it in, since I think a lot of the education and opportunities that we are undertaking often fall under the guise of understanding regional and national and state level histories in terms of racism. So my lean would be towards keeping it.
Okay.
And sorry, you might want to just repeat. I see Councilor Falusi is back, just to reiterate what we're discussing.
Whether or not we leave in state and nation in there.
I would like it to be left in there because I think we acknowledge that we're part of a larger community and not just, and what we do in our town impacts a larger community than just us, and what they do impacts us.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? So I think we kind of made that a little more concise and more direct, and we'll talk about state and nation a little later to see if anybody else has anything that they want to add to it. I'm not 100% sure where I fall on that one yet. Next one, we are resolved that our anti-racism commitment be reflected in the life and culture of the town through our policies, programs, and practices as we continue to learn about racism. I'll be honest, I was a little confused by this one because it was how to be reflected in the life and culture of the town. That one, that part there kind of befuddled me a bit. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. I think that's a confusing issue. I think that also that this is also redundant, since this is something that we have the paragraph above, which incorporates pretty much everything, and that we have all these other bullets that sort of outline this, so that this final paragraph, given the paragraph before this, is a redundant issue. And I think that it's something that that I think that the way that it's structured at this point, I would either recommend that it be removed, or that it be that we see about rewording it in some way.
Okay, I definitely say, like I said, I'm not quite following, again, the measurability, like what that is on that one. So I'm open to dialogue on it. Kurt?
Thank you. So I'm going to echo a lot what Lou just said. I think that if it is the intent of this sentence or paragraph is to talk about us addressing policies, programs that we enact, then it is redundant. And so I would like to see it stricken, because I do believe we have addressed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Brenda?
Thank you. I'm assuming here that the important part of this statement was about being anti-racist. I had the suggestion of either making the sentence say, we are resolved that our anti-racism commitment be reflected through our policies, programs, and practices, and leave it at that. Or if the term anti-racism, which is important, I think it's very important to this discussion, can be used in maybe one of our bullet points up top when we are talking about maybe continuously evaluating our policies and ordinances to ensure they're anti-racist. Those would be, my suggestions for this sentence.
Okay. John?
Well, I'm kind of struggling with this. I'm fine with the policies and programs, the life and culture of the town. I'm not exactly sure what that means. So I would almost be in favor of, I see it as sort of redundant. I'm probably leaning toward striking the entire sentence from the document. I think it's a, if we want to see it, talk about it being measurable, I'm not sure. The life and culture of the town, I'm not sure how that's measurable. So I think striking that sentence would be the way I would go with it.
Okay. Well,
Sorry, I should have taken my hand down. I didn't realize it was still up.
oh, still up? It's up again. Steve.
I'll put mine up to break it, but no, actually, so I was going to say, I would be fine striking it with the inclusion of the term anti-racism, as Councillor Felucci has requested, into one of the bullet points, just so that it's more succinct and we're using language that reflects our values, but yeah, but isn't redundant towards the overall message and implementation.
Okay. Lou? Is it up? Is your hand up?
Now it's up now. Now it's up.
I'm lowering it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that with regard to the statements that we've stated that we're against racism, and that I would caution, because anti-racist carries with it significant connotations, which that I've had other people, other town residents also state that they have concerns regarding any statement that has anti-racist. I believe that the statement of that we are against racism is a thorough enough statement. But I would not support any statement that would have or anything that would contain anti-racism because of the connotation, because of the other factors surrounding it. So I would that's my position.
Does anybody else have anything on this one? Okay, so I think we're looking to strike the sentence because we think that it's addressed in the above, and then, okay, we'll reflect back on the last piece. So the last one here, we resolve to develop and work to implement strategies that dismantle racism where we find them. To develop and work to implement. I don't like work to implement, but I'm trying to think of a better way to put it. Implement, yes, but work to implement doesn't really, not to be redundant, but work for me. Resolve to develop. And implement.
Maybe, sorry, just I didn't mean to jump in front of anyone, but maybe we resolve to develop and strive to implement strategies so that, it's an action, we're doing an action in terms of strategies that dismantle racism where we find them. I'm sure it's probably fine either way if we didn't have the work too, but
yeah, I'm just thinking like develop and implement. That's
yeah.
just, from a measurability, we developed and implemented kind of a thing. But that's just me. Does anybody else have anything on this sentence or any input on the striking work too?
I'm fine with striking work too.
Lou?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Jones. I think that'd be appropriate.
To develop and implement. Okay, I think that's more actionable. We can always work to something, but all right, anybody else? All right, I don't see any objection to that, Mike, if you want to strike work to. So I think that's probably a pretty good review. Do you have enough to do notes on it and then get us back another?
Yeah, there's just maybe before we move on, there was just that first bullet point. We said we'd come back to it. I just need to know what to go
The
with
first
for
bullet
that.
point.
Continuously evaluate. We left that up in the air.
Okay, so what did we have? Can you read us back?
Yeah, so right now, as discussed, the header will be, as a council, we will endeavor to uphold these values and standards, bullet 1, continuously evaluate the policies, ordinances we implement or update. And then I put a break there because I wasn't sure if we were going to put a period there or if we were going to say something else.
To ensure, okay. Brenda?
Yeah, I continuously seems to be redundant. I mean, that's what we do anyway, right? So evaluate and revise policies, ordinances that we implement or update to ensure they're anti-racist, against racism. I don't know. Every other statement says why we're doing it. It has racism in it. It says, that we're looking at inequities, and this top one just says that we're looking at our ordinances and policies, but it doesn't say, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, I understand what you're saying. We need the actual,
it's not measurable.
right. I see. See?
So I still like the evaluate and revise policies and procedures to ensure they're anti-racist. I mean, the whole statement is we're against racism, we're anti-racist, so.
Thank you. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that to sort of do that, building everything that we have here is continuously evaluate the policies, ordinances we implement or update to ensure against racial bias or disparate racial effect. How about something along those lines? Because that's really what we're looking for.
Say that again.
I'm sorry, I'll just strike it as leave it as racial bias. To continuously evaluate the policies / ordinances we implement or update in order to ensure they do not further racial bias.
or they,
Or we could, or alternatively, add in there.
hold on,
or-
I agree with Cassandra. I'm gonna type this one out because this one it's our first bullet here. So Brenda, your thing is that we should take out continuously. Because.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what we do anyway, right?
Right.
Okay.
So evaluate the or our,
I think that is fine
the policies.
because we say that we implement later.
We implement or update.
Mhm.
Ensure. How about they are not racially biased? Because that's reflection, making sure that they are not racially biased.
I don't know if that term's is.
To ensure. Lou?
Damn it, I don't know. I don't know why my hand keeps going up. Sorry, thank you.
It is a button you are pushing. Evaluate.
I don't know, I've got a mouse that's sort of going off on its own, and so as I'm touching it, it's hitting that, like, you know. Yeah. Thank you.
They remove racial bias? Or no, because that implies that they all have them. So let's see. Evaluate the policies and ordinances we implement or update, that really is a tongue twister, to ensure they are not racially biased or they contain no racial bias.
Guard against racial bias.
They guard against, that's a good one, guard against racial bias.
I still like anti-racist.
Anybody else have any other suggestions? No? So Mike, we're gonna take out continuously, leave it as evaluate the policies. Evaluate the policies / ordinances we implement or update to ensure let's try it with guard against racial bias and see. I'm hoping, Mike, you can read back the changes to me.
I'll try. Yeah, I did. I've been keeping notes, so.
Okay.
If not, maybe Lisa P can help me out. I know she's our, stenographer here.
So that one there, basically going back from the top when we strike the first one. Poor Lisa, she's gonna probably have chicken scrawl there to go through too. Let's see what you've got and see.
Do you want me to try to read back the whole thing?
Please, yes. If you
Okay,
can.
all right. So we're going to start with the second paragraph. So that's the first paragraph now. So as elected representatives of the town of Tolland, we condemn racism, bigotry, and discrimination in any form and look to promote authentic dialogues about race, diversity, and inclusion. As elected representatives, we will endeavor to uphold these values and standards, evaluate the policies, ordinances we implement or update, to ensure they guard against racial bias. Bullet 2, look for opportunities to provide education to our community on the negative impact racism has on our town. Bullet 3, ensure our municipal government has policies and practices in place that safeguard employment, and we're changing or to and that services are not denied based on race. Bullet 4, purposefully identify, discuss, and challenge issues of racism and the impact it has on our community. No bullet 5, strike. New paragraph. It is through fair and open discussion, humility, and respect that we can learn from each other and from the community where we live and work to appropriately address racism facing our town, state, and nation. We didn't come up to a conclusion with that. We encourage the respectful exchange of ideas from all members of our community with the goal of helping all residents of Tolland understand that they belong to a welcoming community that values diversity and rejects racism, bigotry, and discrimination. We resolve to develop and strive, we resolve to develop and implement strategies that dismantle racism where we find them. That's what I have.
Okay. I like how that sounds. Not sure about everybody else, but I think it's a pretty good working document here. The only thing that we have left to resolve, I think, is the state and nation part. And if we're looking at what we're saying there, it's through fair and open discussion, humility, all that stuff there we're discussing. I don't mind it staying. I'm all right with it. Steve, you were all right with it. Brenda, you were all right with it, right? Well, Steve, your hands up. Do you have something else, Steve?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I was in favor of it.
Yeah. If anybody has any strong objections to it being there or anything that they'd like to add to it, I think this is basically saying, we're gonna fair and open dialogue, discussion, respectful exchange of ideas on how we can, yes, our measurable piece is our town, but expansion beyond our borders and stuff to try to make the world better isn't something that I'm against. So, Steve.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, I think not only striving to maybe be someday a role model in terms of reforms and revisions that we could be looked at by other towns and the state, but I think also some of the necessities we have to go through to work with state officials and agencies to perhaps receive funding or guidance to kind of revise our policies and practices and strategies to combat racism, whether it's improving housing stock, hiring practices, and those sorts of things. I think we've utilized Connecticut Sustainable CT, not that it's a governmental resource, but it's a resource that involves statewide issues. So I think there's just opportunities there to interconnect ourselves, and especially in light of regionalization always being a discussion in terms of education, as well as shared services and joint agreements between towns.
I agree. Okay, so we're going to leave that piece in, Mike. You think you have everything that you need there from a revision perspective?
Yes, I will prepare a clean draft for your next packet.
Okay, hold on. I just want to write down my final notes on this here. Let's make sure that I have everything. I think we addressed all of it. So, all right, Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, is this something that we want to wait then for the clean draft, or is this something that since it was on for a approval tonight that we were going to vote? I'm just looking for input on that. I don't know if you want to take a straw poll as far as going to vote with what we have, or wait till next week to review it for final approval.
So you want to do a straw poll to see if we want to vote, or wait for the Mike read all of it, so we would just be waiting for it in typed up version?
Yes, that would be my request.
Okay. So I guess the straw poll on the table is, do we vote on this now, or do we have Mike read it again, or wait to the final language? Brenda?
Wait till final language. I want to sleep on it.
Okay. Cassandra? Where's Cassandra go? Oh,
Hi, I'm here. Wait till final language is fine with me.
okay. Steve?
I'm fine with tabling the discussion to our next meeting.
Okay. John?
Prepared to vote on it. I think I have everything we need.
Okay. Lou?
I'm prepared to vote on it.
Kurt?
I am prepared to vote on it, but I would be fine waiting if that's a choice of the group. So I didn't really answer your question. If I'm going to straw poll, I would vote on it tonight.
That leaves it on me. That sucks because I'm good with the language that we just read because I've been kind of changing as I go. So I'm all right with it, but I don't necessarily object to waiting to see the final language. I have it in front of me, but I think, or the majority of it anyway, but
I'd like to just say we did have a number of people who weren't able to get on earlier in the meeting. Maybe they'd like to be able to see, you know, what we worked on also. I'm not sure that many people in the audience have the opportunity to write it down or print it out because of the technical difficulties that were happening. So, you know, as a consensus builder, since you do have a split group here, you know, wait till next time. And for everybody who's ready, you're just going to vote for it next time. I would like to see it written out. That's all.
I'm good with that. We'll wait. We'll get the final language from Mike. Mike, when you have time to write it all up, and that we'll put it on the next council agenda as old business, and we can vote on it then. Okay.
Sorry, just a quick point of order. Do we need a motion to table the item to our next meeting, or is it just sort of decided? I see Mike shaking his head, so I think.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I think it's just because it's old business. We're not actually voting on it. And I think the bullet was actually discussed, right? Not.
Yeah, it was continued discussion and consideration, but you've done that, and you've straw poll will be fine. You don't need to table it.
Okay.
All right, so that gets us to 10, report of the town manager.
Okay, hi everybody, Mike Rosen, town manager. So I have a couple of things I just wanted to talk to council about tonight. So the first thing, you know, we're very, as council's aware, we're knee deep in the budget at this point. We had our joint meeting last night. We had our capital public hearing last Thursday. We're moving at this point. We're moving forward to get the budget together to present to council later in March. We submit to council in March, and then we have the couple of meetings with the departments, 10, 11, and March 16th, and then we have the public hearing on the 17th. So one thing I wanted to let council know is that per the request of council, the final approved budget book may look a little bit differently this year. We took the feedback we heard about making things more visual and interactive. And so we're going to work on a website tool to make information better accessible to the public on the town's website using online budget software. So the manager's recommended budget book will be the same as you have come to expect, but we should be able to implement the change by the time we get to the final adopted version in June after the referendum. So what I've seen is a couple of samples of what other towns have used this software, and the taxpayer can go online and see what their tax dollar goes towards. You can see the breakdown of how much goes to the town and the schools. You can see when you break down the town, how much goes to public works and fire and everything. So it's really interactive and it's cool. You can kind of put in how much you pay in taxes and see just how much your dollars go to various departments and things. So, you know, and as part of that too, it's not just the interactive software, but they also help prepare the budget book itself. So that's why I'm saying it's going to look a little bit differently this year in its adopted format, but it'll have all the charts and graphs and everything that everybody has come to enjoy. And in fact, we'll probably have more of them that has been requested of us. So that's a new change that we wanted to let you know about.
I'm very thrilled for that. It's one of my favorite 300-page books.
Yep. Okay. I have some clarifications from the past meeting. So we had our meeting, the first meeting in February. At the previous meeting of the town council on February 9th, there were some questions raised about minutes, correspondence, and communications. This inspired a conversation between myself, the Director of Administrative Services, the acting town clerk, and the Freedom of Information Commission public education officer, who's named Tom Hennick. You've met him before. He's come to the library and has done presentations back in the day. So I'll try to summarize a bit of our conversation at this time, because again, it was reflected in the minutes from the last meeting. So what are minutes? So minutes are a summary of what happens in a public meeting. Generally, it's a statement of issues that are discussed or acted upon. And in the minutes are the time of the convening and the adjournment of the meeting, the date and place of the meeting, names of the members attending and how they voted on each issue, and then the purpose of any executive session and who attended the executive session. Now, obviously, council's minutes are more detailed than that, but at the framework, that's really all that's required of a public agency's minutes. So the minutes of the meeting must be made available at least in draft form within 7 days, and the votes of each member must be available within 48 hours of the meeting. If you have the draft minutes, and Lisa does a great job, that satisfies both of these measures. They're published, the votes are captured in the minutes, and that they have to be available at least in draft form. So although council's minutes are detailed, they aren't necessarily a transcript of what occurred. I made a joke a moment ago that Lisa is sort of our stenographer, but she doesn't have to be. It's more nature of what happens at a meeting. To that end, the videos of council meetings are recorded and available for public display so that people can go back and see what transpired verbatim and at their own leisure. So I asked Tom Hennick about generally, when do you amend a meeting's minutes? Like, when's it appropriate to amend a meeting's minutes? So Tom was clear that minutes cannot be amended to reflect intention, but only what actually happened at the meeting. So it would be appropriate that if something was written down incorrectly by the recording clerk, that the minutes could be amended to correct a mistake or some sort of mistake like that. But if the speaker happened to misspeak, and the clerk accurately reflected the misspoken statement, and stay with me here, the speaker could make a statement in the following meeting clarifying their misstatement from the previous meeting to be captured in this set of minutes that's happening right now as we speak. So it's a little bit of a wishy-washy, but at the end of the day, you can't change minutes to say, oh, I meant to say this, but you can say that in this current meeting, tonight's meeting, and that'll be captured in tonight's meeting's minutes. So moving on to correspondence, because this is something that came up at the last meeting too. So I looked into this, and correspondence is actually not mandated or compelled by any state or local law or statute. Each municipality and even each various the town councils of the past have handled correspondence differently. So it's actually up to the council how they wish to handle correspondence. Tolland has no existing correspondence policy on the books, and each public body within Tolland has the ability to handle correspondence as it sees fit. Some publish all correspondence, which I know somebody mentioned that at the last meeting. Some just publish what was specifically asked to be published or read into the record, and some boards do not touch on correspondence at all. I won't bore you. I looked into a little bit of council's background, but correspondence in some way, shape, or form has been on our agendas since 1973 when we were still a board of selectmen back then. It evolved over time, but all that I have the backup on this, but basically correspondence has been addressed by councils of the past over the past. So correspondence to town council has varied over time, but it appears council has had correspondence on its agenda for decades. Some longstanding staff members recall when correspondence to council was extremely limited, mostly to letters to the councilors that came from vendors or people wishing to bid on contracts, or communications from the town attorney. As time has evolved and postal letters became emails, communications have upticked to what they are today. Again, nothing mandates how correspondence is handled. So certainly all correspondence to town council is discoverable under the Freedom of Information Act, but nothing forces council to either publish all letters to council, either outside or within the agenda packets, or B, read correspondence or even their summaries into the record. That's not to say that council has not done this over time, which, as previously mentioned, has been the case. Correspondence agenda item has become a way to ensure to the people that their emails were received and acknowledged. With that said, I believe I've researched this item, and I'll leave it to council to decide in the future how it wants to continue to proceed with correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That was very thorough. I appreciate the work that you did. Steve?
I just I was initially going to mention it in the adoption of minutes, but I figured this is probably more appropriate that I wanted to kind of echo some of Town Manager Rosen's comments about our clerk, Lisa. I think doing a lot of research of how other towns do things, not just in terms of minutes, but just general research. I think you go above and beyond in terms of being thorough and detailing out as much as is within reason. And I think providing an opportunity for those that maybe don't want to sit through a 3-hour video, an opportunity to get a good summary of what has transpired and the engagements between counselors, the public, et cetera. So I know that, obviously there's criticism and mistakes can happen, but I think by and large, you do a very excellent job. So I just wanted to extend that.
I agree. Lisa is great. Brenda?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to echo that thank you, Mike, for going through and getting all that history. I found that very enlightening, very interesting to read through. We had received 2 emails. One of them was asking us to make some changes, which we, from my understanding, is not something that we would do right now, but we had another email that pointed out that I misspoke. So at this time, I'd like to say that I did misspeak, that taking a look at my chicken scratch written notes, that I combined 2 emails into one statement. So the 2 emails, one of them was about a shared story that a resident had shared about his wife's immigration. And the other one had said that racism doesn't matter in town and that we shouldn't do the proclamation. So I apologize for putting those 2 statements together and making it seem that the first email contains the information about saying racism doesn't matter. It did not. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Let's go on to number 11. Adoption of minutes. Sorry. Used to Steve just jumping right in there. He was all
Yeah.
muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I wasn't sure if we were planning to make any changes to the minutes or if based on the report from the town manager that we were going to adopt the minutes all as 11.1, 2, 3, and 4. So I just wanted to kind of get feedback from counselors before making a motion.
I don't have any changes to the minutes.
Mr. Jones, I know you emailed me that there was one edit. The word
correct.
motion versus emotion. I don't remember which minutes that was. I think
Yeah,
2-9.
Yeah, I have to see what minutes those were. It was
2-9, I believe.
Regular or special?
I think it was one that Chair Minuccio that you weren't able to attend when I was serving as chair. That was the only edit that I was going to request.
Yeah, I have it. Your email I printed out. It says Mr. Jones commented that his conversations between himself and the chair were individual conversations regarding the potential for a discussion. He is sharing the draft not as emotion, like EMOTION, but it should be a motion, as like a motion to do something. So,
That's
that's yeah. So we just need to quickly just amend that. That's the February 9th regular minutes.
Okay.
So I think then we could probably approve the 26th, the 9th special meeting, and the 11th regular. And then we'll have to amend the 9th regular meeting for approval.
Okay. So Steve Jones, I make a motion to adopt the minutes as laid out in 11.1, 11.2, and 11.4.
This is Brenda Felucci. I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt? I'm an aye, so that passes unanimously.
All right. And Steve Jones, I'd make a motion to adopt the minutes as laid out, as amended in 11.3, updating a motion to a motion.
Lulu, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
An aye, so that passes unanimously. 12, correspondence to council.
Papers. Okay. So we received a number of emails. We received one email from a non-resident, I assume, about some negative views on how we legislate a certain item. I'll leave it at that. One from a resident that that gave us some information on the electric grid and decarbonization. We received emails from 2 residents with concerns about the scheduling of the 2 meetings last night. We received an email from 1 resident about support for the Board of Education budget. 1 resident sent in information about racism. 1 resident sent in information about glyphosate. We had 1 resident send in information about a webinar series declaring racism as a public health emergency. We had 1 resident ask us not to use generalized terms on racism, for example, systemic, structural, and institutional. We had 1 town organization write in about asking us to fly the pride flag. We had 1 resident write in to support the Board of Education budget. Another resident wrote in to request the town council support the Board of Ed budget. Another resident wrote in with their observations on the February 9th meeting and forwarded some emails to us. Another resident asked for a Black History Month recognition and a revision on a statement. We had 1 resident thank us for not moving forward with the proclamations that we saw in the last month. And said if we wanted to do a proclamation, they wanted to do one for the K-9 officer. And I think that was it. That's it as of 5 o'clock, everything I caught. I had Zoom meetings right prior to this. So hopefully I got everything.
Thank you. I do not have a chair report tonight. Gets us to 14, communications and petitions from councilpersons. Do we, Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I would like to thank everyone for considering the proclamation for African American History Month. I think that's something that's important to move forward. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank all the members of the Tolland Resident State Troopers Office, the Troop C, as well as the Tolland Fire Department, and also specifically the 2 officers, Trooper Hoyt, as well as Trooper Kalini and his dog Drago, for the outstanding service that they did for the town of Tolland this past weekend. That they went above and beyond to make sure that to keep all of our town residents safe, and and I think that was an outstanding job, especially with Trooper Hoyt putting himself in harm's way in a significant way, to the point where I was able to check on him, and that he did receive 5 staples in his head, that he's still out of work because of the injuries that he encountered, and that I wish him the best for a speedy recovery. Also, based upon their actions, I have submitted for next meeting a request for proclamation addressing that issue and their actions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to take an opportunity to thank the members of our community who have stepped up for the Substance Use and Mental Health Task Force. This is something back in late 2019 that I brought forth to the council as part of our goal setting sessions. I originally brought it forth as just a substance use disorder task force because that's something that's near and dear to me. It hits home for me, just like I know it does for a lot of members of our community. So I think it's important work, and this is prior to COVID hitting. So I think now that COVID is here, I think the substance use has gone through the roof, and then mental health issues too. We're seeing a lot of problems with that. So I personally want to thank Tracy, Daryl, Becky, Carlene, Susan, Amanda, and Gerald. I'm looking forward to meeting you. I'm really looking forward to starting this work. I really think it's important. I'd also like to thank my fellow council member, Kurt Schenner, for volunteering, and then the members of the Board of Ed who have volunteered as well, Tony Holt, Jacob Mari, and Madhu Rendu Chintala. Thank you all for stepping up. I think this is important work. I'm really looking forward to getting going with it. And I think we can do some great things for the town. So thank you all. And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I echo your thanks. Steve?
Yeah, Steve Jones, I have a quick list of items. So the first is I do concur with Councilor Regan's comments. I think even a few days ago it was reported, I think in the Connecticut Mirror, that there's been a 13% increase in fatal overdoses in the past year. And I think the peak they said was between April and July when lockdowns were at their worst. So I think there's a lot of ramifications and impacts that COVID is going to have on these two topics for many years to come. The second item was actually in relation to a lot of the other requests and comments that were made. I did receive sort of a personal request, and I see that the resident is on Zoom, that their father was actually the resident that helped maintain the suspects in this incident from being able to escape, and the troopers and canine units were able to return in time to apprehend them. So I encourage them to submit a proclamation kind of recognizing that individual for their heroic acts, preventing further crime and potential, threat and injury to life. So just wanted to make that point noted. Another item was the joint meeting that we had last night. While I felt was very productive, it seemed like there were a lot of concerns about a document that the Board of Education has that outlines all the questions that could have been answered in advance. And I'd like to request maybe for future processes that perhaps the town manager and superintendent could possibly work together to have counselors with questions for that meeting possibly submitted in advance, so that if there are in that document that's utilized by the Board of Ed, relayed in a succinct manner prior to the meeting to counselors, so that we can have a more succinct and efficient meeting. Third item was, and I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, was the remote participation policy. Just want to reiterate my desire to have that survey re-established and included to expand the Commission on Persons with Disabilities to see how they feel about that access, and just having conversations with people that I think it's been normalized in terms of utilizing Zoom. And I think the accessibility for people with compromised immune systems, maybe they're sick and just don't want to go out to a meeting, both participation for residents as well as participation for standing members and alternates for a board or commission. One other item was the cemetery policy. I can take it offline, but I just wasn't sure if there was any update on that, if it's been working well for them, for Public Works, in terms of the language that we spent, I think, multiple meetings on to craft. I did make a request to Town Manager Rosen, and I appreciate Trooper Eklund in their office for researching crime data over the past year to see if there are any trends and changes that have occurred, either due to COVID or other issues, if it's traffic related or law enforcement related issues. And sorry, as a final note, I just want to thank the CERT team. This past Sunday was, I believe, their last, or prior Sunday was the last testing event. And there was a note sent out to the CERT members from the organizer, thanking them and notating that the nurses and staff from SEMA4 were very appreciative of the safety and presence they provided throughout these months of testing. So just want to extend that kudos publicly to all members of the CERT team that volunteered and continue to volunteer. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. So you had a lot there. So I think I may have caught all of it, but I'm not sure. You might want to send me a note with all of the requests just in case. But in regards to the proclamation for the resident, I think you could request that also, if that's, if that.
Yeah,
we did receive it.
Yeah, I recommended they send it to them. So I think they're all set, but I do support that moving forward once it's on our agenda, which I assume will be the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Brenda.
Thank you. I just want to add on to Steve Jones' statement about including Zoom in future meetings. It's also an equity issue that people who, seniors who, or anybody who has trouble driving at night, it doesn't necessarily have to be seniors, it could be anybody with a visual impairment. It could be anybody who has trouble hearing inside our council chambers. And it's just also a matter of accessibility for people. It's much more accessible for many households to be able to walk into another room and be able to jump onto a meeting for as long as they can, for as long as they can when other things are happening. So I'm very much looking forward to finding a way that we can continue this kind of platform when we get back into council chambers, which I'm in no hurry to get back to. I also want to mention that we do have quite a few still outstanding items that many councilors have petitioned for, and we're running out of meetings. So I think we need to take a look at all the petitions and see what
Mike
we
and I
can
have
do
done,
to add.
yeah, we've done that, and there's actually not. There's like one, I think, or two, if that,
I
right?
have about 12 on my list.
Can
When I
you-
went back and looked at emails or notes, the meeting minutes, there's quite a few things on the list. If you'd like, I can send Mike the list that I have.
If you can send it to me, I'd appreciate it. And then I can, yeah, send it to me. And as far as the remote policy, that has not slipped off our radar. There's two things that we're waiting for here. One is operating during the governor's emergency order and what is allowed and what is not allowed. And also the legislature is looking at codifying some of that anyway. So we're waiting to see what happens at the state level. And while we're still meeting remotely, Mike and I talked about it and just said that at this point, we're just going to continue with things with the way they are. So it has not slipped off of anybody's radar. It's just kind of hanging in limbo. Mike, I see you unmuted yourself. So
Yeah, so just Mr. Jones, you know, town staff has looked at updating the survey as well. It's one of those things that we're trying to find the right time to release that amidst all the other things going on. So what we had looked, we found the September email that had gone out to the chairpersons of all the boards and committees in town, and their feedback was part of the packet in September. It was an Excel document where people had written in their viewpoints about a remote participation policy. But I agree that due to the pending nature of the state legislature having maybe codifying this, plus also I know that the governor's currently the governor's executive orders expire April 19th unless they're further extended. And should that happen, that may also play an impact on how we do remote meetings in the future, because then we would revert back to the Freedom of Information law. But of course, that also may be amended by the state legislation that's pending. So it's a lot of moving parts right now. But I do expect that we're going to put that survey out to the chairpersons again. And I think it'll be a 2-bullet thing where one is, you know, how many members or when would your agency be comfortable having hybrid meetings? And then the second one would be more about the original question, which was, you know, how comfortable are you with remote participation in general? And then people, there was the policy itself. It was a 2-page policy that the chairs had written back comments on to see if that's been amended at all over the past, you know, 8 or so months now. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that, but I'm trying to think of the right time to release that survey.
Steve?
Yep, sorry, just one other maybe petition request, and it's probably just one that kind of goes out into the ether for everyone, but I do, knowing that we're approaching in a few months our referendum, I just want to encourage us to advocate that the state allows us to have that vote in person or through a hybridized model that allows COVID-19 to be utilized for immunocompromised residents and those that have concerns due to COVID, the opportunity to vote by absentee. Especially just noting, I believe it was released in the last week that the expansion of vaccination rollout for 16 to 34-year-olds is not until May 3rd, which is one day prior to our referendum. And I don't have the demographics in front of me, but I'm sure it's probably in the 6 figures, if not multiple hundreds of thousands of residents that fall under that bracket that, you know, won't have that opportunity. So just a personal request, you know, I'm probably planning to reach out to legislators or to the governor to extend that opportunity, or in the very least codify that we can have our referendum in person on May 4th.
Okay.
So that's it. That's just kind of an open petition.
Yep. Thank you. All right, that gets us, anybody else? No? Okay, gets us to Public listed participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council, 3-minute limit. If you are on a device, please use the raise hand function. When we call on you, you need to state your name and address for the record. And if you're on a phone, that's *9, same applies. Kate Bell.
Hi there. Thank you, Kate Ballo, 80 Tolland Green. So I was just really interested in any reluctance that I heard or controversy around using the term anti-racist within this statement on anti-racism that the council is pulling together here. I just wanted to share something from a credible source, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, for anybody that's interested. It says that race does not biologically exist, yet how we identify with race is so powerful, it influences our experiences and shapes our lives. In a society that privileges white people and whiteness, racist ideas are considered normal throughout our media, culture, social systems, and institutions. Historically, racist views justified the unfair treatment and oppression of people of color, including enslavement, segregation, internment, etc. We can be led to believe that racism is only about individual mindsets and actions, yet racist policies also contribute to our polarization. While individual choices are damaging, racist ideas and policy have a widespread impact by threatening the equity of our systems and the fairness of our institutions. To create an equal society, we must commit to making unbiased choices and being anti-racist in all aspects of our lives. Being anti-racist is fighting against racism. Racism takes several forms and works most often in tandem with at least one other form to reinforce racist ideas, behaviors, and policy. Types of racism are individual racism, interpersonal racism, institutional racism, structural racism. No one is born racist or anti-racist. These results from the choices we make. Being anti-racist results from a conscious decision to make frequent, consistent, equitable choices daily. These choices require ongoing self-awareness and self-reflection as we move through life. In the absence of making anti-racist choices, we unconsciously uphold aspects of white supremacy, white dominant culture, and unequal institutions in society. Being racist or anti-racist is not about who you are, it is about what you do. That's some food for thought as you get ready for the next meeting and consider including that word in what you're going to do moving forward. And then on a also important note, but unrelated note, I just wanted to ask whatever happened to the teen center. And I wanted to note that that's been on the website still for a long time that we have one, and I don't think we do. So I'm curious about that. And I'm curious about how Nancy Dunn's position is being filled. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kate. Annalise.
Hi, Annalise Sear, 34 Columbine Road. I just want to say that I do support the Board of Ed budget from last night. I hope you guys do as well. I also want, I hope that we do revisit the proclamation to declare racism a public health crisis in our town to be revisited. Just last week, my son was threatened by a student that her father is a cop. And so, and mind you, my son is Black, that her father is a cop. And so, he can easily hurt him without any issue. And so these things, just like I said in a couple meetings ago, that these things are real. Racism is real in our town and it's hurting our minority children. They're being affected in many different ways. So just because you are not hearing about these situations on a daily basis doesn't mean that they're not happening. As for tonight's meeting and the statement against racism, I appreciate everyone's effort. I do see that everyone was trying. I'm not going to say that you guys didn't, and I saw that you did take a lot of time on it, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate you all voting to declare February Black History Month in our town. I think that that's wonderful. Baby steps. That's great. But I do struggle, yes, with this board, and I understand that it's your statement, but it's okay to educate yourself and to reach out and find other sources to help you make a statement that is, well-rounded, and if you go and you make a speech, you're gonna do your research first, right? You're going to go find the information that you need so you don't sound like an idiot. Not that I'm not saying you're sounding like an idiot. I'm just saying that it's okay to reach out and ask for help from our community and from other people, and maybe from experts, or hang on, sweetheart. So I just I hope that you guys in the town council, that as we move forward with these conversations, that there's a little bit more openness to reaching out to the minority populations, to reaching out to people who can help us all understand these very difficult conversations and topics much better, because there's a lot for us all to learn, me as well, everybody. So I do hope that as this goes on, that you guys do consider that. And I also hope that in the future that we can have more personal conversations rather than just these meetings, and you guys might take into consideration having a special meeting where we can talk about this very, very dense topic that is obviously going to be a very long process and journey for us all to make progress within our town when it comes specifically to racism. And I think that's all. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Colleen.
The time's already up. Sorry, hi, Colleen Check 12 Blueberry Hill in Tolland. First, I just want to start off. It was a great conversation here in the whole council. Trying to come up with a statement against racism. Excuse me. And I just wanted to make couple comments or observations from last night. Sorry, my notes are scattered all over the place. Just a reminder, obviously I served for several years, and sometimes we lose track of what our lanes are. But the Board of Ed is responsible for setting and adopting what is needed for education. The town council is determining what can be afforded. Just one thing, that was one thing I noticed from last night. And I just wanted to also say, using words like discovery sounds like the superintendent and the Board of Ed trial. I don't think a lot of people that listened last night, that's how they felt. We hammered the superintendent away. It's fine to ask questions, but the board's role is to put forth what they think is good for the town. And also my other concern was, and I think Mr. Reagan, Councilor Reagan mentioned tonight even, we need school counselors in our schools. Mental health and substance abuse is a problem. So we need those school counselors. We cannot afford to be sharing them, even though I know it costs money, but our students are worth it. And lastly, I want to ask the town manager, were you directed departments to have a 0% increase going forward from their departments? And that was it.
Thank you, Colleen. Anybody else? No? Okay. With that, Steve?
Oh, sorry, I just like Kenny just put their hand up. I think it was right after.
Okay. Kenny?
Kenny Trice, 53 Doe Run. First of all, thank you folks for what you do. I know it's hard. It really is. My first statement is going to pertain to yesterday's meeting with the Board of Education. I'm just going to say this. Trust the team. That's all you need to know. Trust the team. My statement for this evening was when I watched you folks try to go through the statement, and you really did. You put a lot of time in it. But I told you that this was going to be hard. I said that to you. I think I've written to you about that. I think I've given you some examples. This is a hard topic. And I'm going to go back to my rhetorical question that I said about a month ago. How many of you have been in a tenement fire? if you haven't been there, you're not going to have a clue of what to write about being inside. So I would suggest, and I know that you're trying, I know it's a tough subject. I mean, there's things that I don't have any knowledge about, and it would be tough for me to talk about it. You heard Annalise say it. Go out and find some folks. Ask them what should you say? The first statement that came up, I thought I said this 2 weeks ago. I think I said, if you go back to the video, smacked me in the face. Either the video didn't work or nobody listened. So I'm gonna give you some more advice. Listen, listen, and listen some more. Don't jump up and say, I gotta quit. No, listen. Listen, because this is a new topic for most of you. And that's okay. I've always said, it's all right if you don't know. If I knew everything, boy, I probably wouldn't even be at this meeting. So go out and ask people that are experiencing, ask their opinion. I understand you have some legal precedent. Listen, I'm not looking for you to say, we're going to give a summons to everybody that's racist. You can't do that. Or we're going to put this person, you can't do that. But you are leaders, and how you set the tone, and that tone can simply be something subtle. It doesn't have to be a Bill of Rights on the wall. It's just the way that you conduct yourselves, or when you see something that's wrong, you call it out. You say, hey, that's not right, just like you would your children. And I'm not saying that the people are children, but sometimes people will, as Brenda said earlier, we all have biases. I have them. Everybody has it. That's a natural human reaction. So all I'm going to say is reach out. This is a tough subject. It really is. And you're not going to fix it in one session. You're not. Hell, we've only been free for 156 years. I've got time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Anybody else? Okay, Steve?
If there's no other public participation, I would make a motion to adjourn at 9:52 p.m.
Lulu, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you all. Have a good night. See you soon.
Be well, be safe.
You too.